Right, I'm not gonna do this game to completion, but even a short ride in this is gonna be a nice change of pace for a bit, and it'll be a good warm-up for when I get to No Mercy, a game that many people consider one of the greatest wrestling games ever made. One of my favorite wrestlers of the era was actually Kane, but since being a Jason Voorhees-style character can get a bit old if not done right, our main character in this short little view of this game is going to be The Undertaker. This isn't a sort of mode that has a story by any means. It's essentially a career mode that keeps track of how well you've been doing. I suppose in some ways it's a precursor to the GM modes you would see in later games. And apparently our first match is against a complete jobber. I certainly appreciate that. At the very least, I can't find anything online about this guy right now. Okay, I just have no problem with starting things off a bit easy. It is a damn relief considering what I was expecting. I'll get into some detail what I do take issue with in this game once the match starts. Oh yeah, Chaz definitely looks like a generic create a superstar wrestler. I would, but he's not being controlled by a particularly great player at the moment, so I'm in the market for another savior. Still, jokes aside, it's pretty clear that they put more effort into the wrestler entrances in this game than the WCW ones. They actually bothered including some condensed music for each wrestler, and a very condensed video package to put on the Titantron. Granted, the Nintendo 64 doesn't seem like much now, but back then, this was mind-blowing. Seriously, Sting got generic background music and a generic walk to the ring, while The Undertaker gets the lights turned down, his own music, his own special entrance costume, and walks to the ring in a distinctive way. It really helped sell the idea that the WWF was a better overall production. Wait, Chaz has his own individualized Titantron? Hold on, let me try to look him up again. Apparently this guy was one of the headbangers, specifically Mosh. He was never really someone who got to the top, more of a constant mid-carder who had a pretty solid tag team career. Still, I kind of feel bad for thinking he was just a random generated opponent the game came up with from scratch. He deserves better than that. But enough about me feeling guilty for not being an encyclopedia of wrestling knowledge as I go through this old game. I said I'd talk about my issues with the N64 WWF games during the match, so here we go. While in exhibition mode for both games, you can control the difficulty and adjust it to your comfort level. In Road to Wrestlemania in this game, and the various championship runs in No Mercy, you can't control the difficulty at all. In No Mercy, that means that the difficulty is determined by what belt you chose to go after and how far into that given storyline you are. But in WrestleMania 2000, it feels entirely random. You could go from fighting a match that is insultingly easy to fighting a high-level, brutal match with absolutely no warning. Add in the fact that the controls are the exact same in both these WWF games and the WCW games for the same console, and it can be hard to measure how good you really are. I'm in that awkward ground where I technically know what I'm doing from a broad standpoint, but I never bothered to memorize the exact moves that all the characters do with a given set of inputs for grapples. So I end up fighting a counter-heavy opponent, then I'm just gonna be taking an ass-kicking because I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing. It doesn't help that when you're fighting a foe on a higher difficulty, it's harder to counter their moves in return. Okay, so this first match is pretty one-sided in our favor. While The Undertaker has never been the guy, He's certainly been treated as one of the top superstars from his debut in 1990 all the way to his retirement in 2020. Wait, oh, you've got to be kidding me. It's our absolute first match of this game. Why the hell is Stone Cold doing a run-in for this glorified squash match? And of course, he's a hell of a lot tougher than our actual opponents. Have I mentioned that I absolutely hate the difficulty spikes in this game? Especially since the difficulty as a whole feels random for the entire run in this mode. There's a reason I generally play to the WCW games more back on the N64, despite them being objectively less than the WWF games on the same damn console. It's because when I messed around with the difficulty in those games, it actually meant something in the closest thing to a story mode those games had. I'm sorry, but how does it make sense to headbutt someone in the crotch? Punching, kicking, kneeing, or elbowing it is one thing, but a headbutt? Yeesh, that just looks weird. Austin, give me a break and let me take on this mid-carder clean. Granted, the Attitude Era of professional wrestling in the United States had quite a few unclean finishes, but still, this game does not actually have a plot line of any kind. It's just a very long series of random matches you go through that I have always gotten sick of before I managed to get to the final pay-per-view. And this playthrough is gonna be no different. Well, at least it looks like Austin is done pounding on us for this match. We're free to get back to abusing this mid-carder until someone decides to ring the bell. Well, we are pretty damn beaten down at this point in the match. And I am getting sick of seeing the constant replays, especially since a lot of those replays have been us taking a beating. I can't tell if our hand is supposed to be around his throat for a joke or down his throat for something similar to the mandible claw. That's more Mankind's thing than the Undertaker's. But then I suppose the sprites really don't leave the characters a lot of room for precision here, do they? Probably dishonorable that I was planning on punching him right in the dick. But considering how long this supposedly easy match has gone, I think I'm justified. Again, The Undertaker was pretty high up in the card for 30 years, while Chaz was a forgettable singles wrestler that had a nice enough tag team career. And he finally gives up, so the first match that probably should have ended in about 2 minutes went nearly 6. All because arguably the biggest star in WWF history showed up to make things more troublesome in what should have been an easy squash match to warm us up. There is no warming up in this game. You are either ready for anything or you are in for a bad time, and holy shit! The average time of the matches where the player isn't involved, it seems insane. Seriously, X-Pac and Val Venus going at it for nearly 44 minutes? That's a recipe for losing the Monday Night Wars right there. Hell, that entire Monday Night Raw apparently took 4 hours and 12 minutes to go through. I don't even have that much time recorded for this game as a whole. That is exhausting just thinking about, especially for a game that has no actual story of its own. The first time I saw something like this as a kid, I thought it meant this game had some story kind of like No Mercy. No, it doesn't. Well, at least it makes sense for the Undertaker to be treated as the old man here. He was in the company longer than Austin, even at the time of this game's release. Still kind of hilarious that Austin most definitely put far more butts in the seats, but the Undertaker had an obscene shelf life. I mean, sure, you could argue that the Undertaker should have retired earlier, at around the point when he wasn't showing up weekly. Still, there's no denying that he was more physically capable in his 30th year in a wrestling ring than many people will be their entire lives. And this is a person who in reality is 6'8", and his build is 6'10". How many people that tall end up being that strong and have that kind of sense of balance for around 30 years? His biggest issue was his stamina was starting to degrade to a point that even a more methodical style couldn't always hide it, even if he only showed up maybe twice a year, and he couldn't just shrug off the bumps anymore after so many hits had built up. Now, granted, he never had a major neck injury like Stone Cold, and Austin also had some fucked up knees even as he got his time in the sun. Still, The Undertaker was a major part of wrestling for a long time, for good reason, and he had respect both in and out of the ring for numerous reasons. I am just never going to get over the fact that he's no longer active now when he started in the WWF before I'd become even 1 year old. I literally went from diapers to paying off the last of my student loans in the time it took for that man to finally hang it all up. I'm sure that even 5 years after I post this video, some part of me is going to do a quick check on the WWE and wonder how The Undertaker's doing. He may have never been my absolute favorite at any point in his long career, but he was certainly up there, and I certainly enjoyed many of the moments I saw him work. I should probably stop talking about The Undertaker for now and start talking about the major superstar we're getting our ass kicked by right now. But then it's probably a little ridiculous to have to say all that much about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Of Vince McMahon's 3 megastars, Austin had the most intensity and absolutely free reign to cuss as much as he damn well pleased. He was the right man in the right place at the right time, and good God, it must have really burnt Eric Bischoff, the head of WCW, that he had this star in his company first and didn't do anything with him. Hell, he outright said Austin wouldn't grow up to be much of anything in this business. His start wasn't really anything worth writing home about, but in 1996 he just completely took off after feuds with Jake the Snake Roberts and Bret Hart. His Austin 316 promo after the King of the Ring tournament stuck with him, with various people holding up signs of Austin 316 and buying shirts with just his name and those numbers. And holy shit, you would be hard-pressed to find a better way to make a crowd believe a man is brave and determined than the sight of him passing out, face covered in his own blood, but never actually surrendering to the man who was getting more and more frustrated that he could not make Austin submit. The cheers he got in his time at the top were downright explosive and insane. Nobody before or since inspiring that level of passion from the live audience. Anyway, talking about the action right now, I refuse to lose to a count-out. Though given how I'm doing so far in this fight, I somehow doubt we're going to win this match, period. They gave Austin quite a strong AI in this game. And while I have managed to land a few blows, the general idea against higher-level opponents in this game is to stick with light grapples and light strikes until they're worn down. Light grapples have this annoying tendency to occasionally raise the enemy's spirit bar and not do all that much for your own, at least in my experience. I don't think the AI follows that particular rule themselves when fighting that way, but maybe I wasn't paying enough attention, which means if you're fighting a higher level AI, you're probably gonna take a finisher or two, regardless of if you win the fight as a whole. Now I'm most definitely not a newbie in this game, or No Mercy, which I'll do immediately when I'm done with the footage I have for Wrestlemania 2000. But I only really feel comfortable fighting at normal difficulty in those games. Easy is just one-sided in my favor to feel satisfying. And while hard is just plain more demanding than I generally like, especially if I'm coming back to this game after a few years of not touching it. And again, you cannot control what difficulty the opponents are in these games, unlike the WCW games. So again, while I most certainly know that the two WWF N64 games are superior in pretty much every way, I don't have as much fun going through them as the WCW games for the same console, but I wouldn't have felt right to completely skip over both of them, along with all the other games made before SmackDown vs. Raw, especially since WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy do such a great job of capturing the essence of the Attitude Era, an era I absolutely fell in love with, while many of the later games either touched on the transition period from one period of wrestling to the next, or they were outright part of the next era of wrestling. Well, at least our opponent, even at a high difficulty setting, doesn't know how to really prevent rope breaks from happening, but yeah. I'm pretty sure the only reason we haven't been beaten already is because the AI doesn't have especially amazing ring awareness. We are getting our asses kicked pretty convincingly, and I'm pretty sure there's nothing we can do to avoid losing at this point. I'm gonna keep fighting, but still, my morale is pretty low. I certainly would appreciate if somebody did a run-in to help us. But apparently not even Kane, the partner we picked, is going to do so. Only the AI seems to get people to just come in, at least in my experience. Maybe there's a button I'm supposed to push to get that to happen for us, but I've never learned what that button is. Definitely an odd first clip for this game. Again, I most definitely did not get any chance to warm up here, but at least I can use this game to try to warm up for No Mercy, which, again, has more extensive storytelling. Wait, how the hell did we grab a bald man by the hair? I mean, sure, hair may as well be a helmet in a game this old, but still, that stretches even my suspension of disbelief.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You're kidding me. I'm gonna win via countout? Right, apparently that was asking for too much. Okay, so apparently when your spirit bar is high enough, it doesn't matter if you use a light attack or not. It's still going to raise it. It's nice to know. But I'm not sure that's going to help us all that much after the beating we've already taken. It's definitely feeling more like a back and forth than it feels like it deserves to after the beating we've already taken in this match. Holy shit, I'm landing our finisher on the bastard. I probably should have gone for a second tombstone there instead of trying to cover. Seriously, why do people still call them finishers if the opponents can get up after them and it's become so damn common? And can we have some better means of being able to tell how much more abuse our opponents or us can take? The spirit bar certainly doesn't feel like an accurate way to judge, nor does the way the characters hold damaged body parts. like I've managed to turn this match around, but I'm not really sure if I deserved to win. Yeah, a tombstone while outside the ring should put him down for a 10 count. After the match we just had, I don't give a damn if this is an honorable win or not. Just so long as it's over and we somehow manage a win. And good God, that probably doesn't sound very heroic, in a wrestling sense at least. You know what would make that hellacious match feel even better? If the game didn't just treat it like just another little number on our win-loss record, and there was some reward, story or otherwise, for it. Still, I feel pretty good right now. That's gotta be worth something. And we even kept it in a reasonable time frame, unlike everyone else on this card.